Lady Luna here, and I will be. Last time I recorded, I promised you I would read a scary story to go along with the build. Um, I didn't really have anyone that was really appropriate for this build. I don't know that many scary stories about actual haunted houses that are like mansions and stuff. But I do have a scary story that I have always found fascinating, and that's the story of La Llorona, who is a Mexican goat. Like her legend started in Mexico, and she is, I kind of think, real. Um, you can debate me on that, but I uh, I believe. And I think I'll go through and I'll find the scary stories that I find to be true, maybe. And I would love if you guys would go and you would give me your own scary stories for to read, and I'll read them aloud. And yeah. So without further ado, here is The Weeping Woman, La Llorona, by Joe Hayes. This is a story that the old ones have been telling to children for hundreds of years. It is a sad tale, but it lives strong in the memories of the people, and there are many who swear it is true. Long years ago, in a humble little village, there lived a fine-looking girl named Maria. Some say she was the most beautiful girl in the world, and because she was so beautiful, Maria thought she was better than everyone else. As Maria grew older, her beauty increased, and her pride in her beauty grew too. When she was a young woman, she would not even look at the young men from her village. They weren't good enough for her. When I marry, Maria would say, I will marry the most handsome man in the world. And then one day, into Maria's village rode a man who seemed to be just the one she had been talking about. He was dashing young ranchero, the son of a wealthy rancher from the southern plains. He could ride like a Comanche. In fact, if he owned a horse and it grew tame, he would give it away and go rope a wild horse from the plains. He thought wasn't manly to ride a horse if it wasn't half wild. He was handsome, and he could play the guitar and sing beautifully. Maria made up her mind that was the man for her. She knew just the trick to win his attention. If the ranchero spoke when they met on a pathway, she would turn her head away. When he came to her house in the evening to play his guitar and serenade her, she wouldn't even come to the window. She refused all his costly gifts. The young man fell for her tricks. "That haughty girl, Maria, Maria," he said to himself. "I know I can win her heart. I swear I'll marry that girl." And so everything turned out as Maria planned. Before long, she and the ranchero became engaged, and soon they were married. At first, things were fine. They had 2 children, and they seemed to be a happy family together. But after a few years, the ranchero went back to the wild life of the prairies. He would leave town and be gone for months at a time, and when he returned home, it was only to visit his children. He seemed to care nothing for the beautiful Maria. He even talked of setting Maria aside and marrying a woman of his own wealthy class. As proud as Maria was, of course she became very angry with the ranchero. She also began to feel anger toward her children because he paid attention to them but just ignored her. One evening, as Maria was strolling with her 2 children on the shady pathway near the river, the ranchero came by in a carriage. The elegant lady sat on the side of him. He stopped and spoke to his children, but he didn't even look at Maria. He whipped the horses up on the street. When she saw that, a terrible rage filled Maria, and it all turned against her children. And although it was sad to tell, the story says that in her anger, Maria seized the 2 children and threw them into the river. But as they disappeared down the stream, she realized what she had done. She ran down the bank of the river, reaching out her arms to them, but they were long gone. The next morning, a traveler brought word to the villagers that the beautiful woman lay dead on the bank of the river. That is where they found Maria, and they laid her to rest where she had fallen. But the first night Maria was in the grave, the villagers heard the sound of crying down by the river. It was not the wind, it was La Llorona crying, "Where are my children?" And they saw a woman walking up and down the bank of the river, dressed in long white robe, the way they had dressed Maria for burial. On many a dark night they saw her walk in the river bank and cry for her children, and so they no longer spoke of her as Maria. They called her La Llorona, the weeping woman, and by that name she is known to this day. Children are warned not to go out in the dark, for La Llorona might snatch them and they never return. So, that is a story I've heard many, many a time, and I always really liked it. Well, I mean, it terrified me as a child, and it made me have this deep, inset fear of, like, water that isn't pool water. Like, I hate going around rivers and lakes, and I think part of that is because of that story. Yeah. So, I guess that it did its work. I mean, I think that's why they did it, was to scare children away from going into the water. Yeah, so there you go. There's, like, I've heard so many stories as a child, and even as an adult, I've been reading, like, all these books, and they keep making references to La Llorona, which is something that I used to think was only local to me back when I was out living in Arizona. And then I found out, nope, it's like a really common thing for people around this, like, the Southwest to scare their children with. Um, yeah, so it's one of my favorites, and I guess we should talk about the build now. Yeah, it's right now I'm working on making a canopy bed for, like, both the bedrooms that have double beds have canopy beds, and the children's bedroom doesn't. And this upstairs here is actually the servants' room, and I could have sworn that this was at the end of the video, but I'm guessing it's not. Well, I'm guessing we're halfway through this one already, so I mean, I guess that's the last quarter of footage I have. I skipped over parts unintentionally. Like, I thought I had started recording, but I guess I hadn't. And there are 6 servants' rooms, but they could also be, like, guest rooms, or, yeah, they could just be, like, I don't know, like, you could turn them into whatever you want. I mean, it's, if you download this, it'll be your build then, to do with what you want. But yeah, I put back here a bit of a gaming room, which I like, you know, for people to go sit and play just some games and stuff. There's a card table down in one of the parlors on the first floor, but that's about it. Upstairs I put a chess table, and I have a chess table in the library, and there's a dartboard. Though I wish the dartboard didn't have the electronic scoreboard on it. That would be nice. But yeah, so I was thinking of doing another version of this build where I turn it into an asylum. I think it would be good for people who are doing the asylum challenge. I'll look up the rules and make sure I have the right amount of whatever. I know you can't have, but then this house is really big, and that would make the asylum challenge real hard. This would be playing it on, like, insanity mode, I guess. Um, there I put in a little room to hold treasure. uh, yeah, and doing a little sneaky save because I was scared to death that that the game would crash and it would lose my, where I was at all the time. Um, though honestly, I've had some builds where I've lost the build and I go back and I rebuild and it's like 10 times better after I go and rebuild. Um, yeah, and here I'm starting the landscaping, but it's gonna change up and everything. Um, oh, so sorry, so sorry. Um, I'm just trying out some different things. I stick a lot of those really tall pointy trees everywhere. Um, I put in, like I talked about this in the other video, I put in a hedge mage eventually. Um, right now I'm just working on the entryway. Yeah, and I was thinking I'll put 2 paths going around, and I realized there wasn't enough room on that side when I put in the wall, because I wanted to have a high wall all around. And um, I tried at first to have a high wall with the small little spiky railing around it because I figured that looked more like it was like just a brick wall with like some decorative pokey bits. That's the technical term, but it didn't really work out. It Yeah, my decorative pokey bits didn't work out because I put in the hedge maze, but people could actually walk through the fence because it was only the pokey bits. Um, so yeah, that didn't work out quite well because I wanted to have it where you couldn't walk through the fence. You had to walk through the maze because on the other side of the maze is the magic wishing well, and I wanted it to be a challenge to get to it. Yeah, I start out the maze having all the rows be too wide, which maybe I should have kept because it's like when the Sims go through the maze, when the rows are just 1 wide, they tend to clip through the hedging a little bit. It would work better if it was like a thinner style fence, but because the hedging's so thick, it just, the Sims clip through it when they run around. Oh well, c'est la vie. Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of this hedge maze. I thought I did it pretty cleverly, but I mean, I think there's more than one way to get through it, so I guess I didn't. I also am like looking at it, I'm like, why didn't I put in some angles other than right angles? I mean, have some triangular shapes in here, but whatever. I do like the way it turned out. I just think it's really cool. I always wanted to have a hedge mage in my house, at my house, but I mean, you can't really do that unless you're, you know, mega rich. Um, it's just a lot of work and a lot of math. So much math. And see here, I'm testing the hedge maze, and she just ends up running around it, so I had to go through. Okay, and here we're coming into the screenshots. There are a lot of them, because the build is so big, and I really didn't take pictures of every room, and I don't even think I put in screenshots of. Okay, now there's just double screenshots of this. What the heck? I don't even know what I was doing. I'm sorry, guys. That's my failure. I'm not going back in and taking it out. Yeah, I just... Man, when are we going to be able to paint the ceilings? There's supposed to be an update coming up this week, and maybe we'll be able to paint the ceilings with it. Wouldn't that be super neato keen? I'd be down for it. I This place has everything. It has a pool, it has a ballroom, it has a chapel, for goodness sake. How many houses do you get that have their own little chapel in it that you can hold a wedding in or something? I mean, you can totally take that out. I mean, there's places where you could add in about two or three more bedrooms, like large size bedrooms, if you wanted to. Uh, but yeah, that's like up to you. And I think in the upload to the gallery, you'll actually have a couple of those dirty plates in the house. Sorry about that. I realized that there had been something wrong with the one I uploaded, and I went and fixed it and then uploaded it without even realizing I'd left those plates there. So, yeah, you have fun with that, guys. Um, I mean, I guess it's just food left by the ghost. Spooky. Uh, I kind of wish we had like little individual wine bottles that we could just place in places. Just for decor instead of. Because they'll clean them up if you just leave out a wine bottle, I think. So I never really bothered to. But now that I think of it, it might not be. It might just be like when you have like a tape measure set out or whatever, or a hammer. They might not clean it up. But it might glitch out or something. I don't know. Um, there's a like a little balcony that looks down into the chapel from the second story. I thought it was cool. Like, I don't know, you can go there to sit and watch sermons. um, this is the workshop. This little nook right here has two skeletons and two mannequins because I thought it would be like they're examining the skeletal form of the body and the body with flesh on it. Um, I know that might be weird. I don't know. Like, one of the skeletons a boy and one of the skeletons a girl, and then there's a boy mannequin and a girl mannequin. This is the weird little worship room, and this is the treasury that's off next to it. uh, I put in a couple of the spooky wallpapers because I was bored. But I just have a shot of like all the servants' quarters have beds, dressers, and mirrors, and desks. We're coming to the end. If you like this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, tell me your favorite scary stories, tell me about your real life hauntings. I would love that. Follow me on Twitter and Tumblr. My links will be in the description. I'll link the story. Have a great day.